Hello, everyone. This is the Traditionalist, and today we will be continuing our series on the end times. And this time we will be going over the final chapter in Revelation that I'll be covering, and that is Revelation 17. And after this, the series won't be completely over. I'll still do probably one or two videos just going over some other verses, but this is the last full chapter that I'm going over. So Revelation 17 deals with the so-called great whore. And so here's how it goes. And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto you the judgment of the great whore that sits upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness. And I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. When I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. And there are 7 kings. 5 are dead, and 1 is, and the other is not yet to come. And when he comes, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goes into perdition. And the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as of yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. And he said unto me, The waters which you saw where the horse sits are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the woman which you saw is that great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. So, now with that over, what is helpful is that there is a lot of interpretation already, so this isn't nearly as mysterious as many of the other chapters of Revelation, but it is still kind of unclear, and so we'll be going over this chapter. So again, we have the 7 angels with the 7 vials or bowls, and so these were the 7 bowls of destruction that I mentioned earlier on in the series, so go check that out. I forgot which one exactly, but I talked about that earlier, about the 7 bowls of destruction. And they tell John to come, and then they show him the judgment of the great whore that sits upon many waters. And at the end of the chapter, it says the waters are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And so basically what this means is that this whore is basically sitting upon these nations. In other words, is the spirit of these nations and is in control of these nations. Now obviously this great whore is not an actual woman, but is a representation of the sinfulness of the nations. It says, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication and have been made drunk with the wine. And so, definitely this implies that there is sexual immorality, and that the rulers are also involved in this sinfulness. And in fact, as we learn more about this woman, she's sitting upon a scarlet colored beast, and we mentioned the beast before, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So this is definitely the beast that is mentioned earlier. But it's interesting to see that her and the beast not only are both sinful, but they literally work together. So in other words, it's a representation of the spirit of sin that controls the beast. And then it describes how she looks like, with purple and scarlet, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. And so definitely, definitely like a well-dressed person. She is, has a lot of beautiful objects, but that is the thing about sin, is that it looks very attractive and appealing, but it's actually not, because we see in her golden cup, it's actually full of abominations and filthiness. Now, the biggest clue here is that on her forehead, the name is written of who she is: Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. So, of course, as we know, Babylon is the symbol of evil, of everything that goes against God, whether that's the Tower of Babel or the Babylonian exile, or just in general. Babylon's always a symbol for, it's always the opposite of Israel. And so, yeah, essentially, this mystery Babylon is the protagonist and is kind of the source of all these abominations and whoredom. And so it's kind of saying that, yes, she is representative of all of the sin and evil that goes on in the world. And in fact, she is drunk, but not drunk with just wine, but drunk with the blood of the saints. And so this is also representation of this evil and um, how it came about because of the Christians who were martyred. And so the seven heads are in fact seven mountains on which the woman sits. So this is very interesting, because there are a few cities with built on seven hills, but the most famous is Rome. And so maybe this is actually a representation of Rome, whether that's the Roman Empire that was sinful and killed Christians, or maybe even the Roman Catholic Church. We don't know. But then it says, there on these seven hills, there are also seven kings, and five are dead. And so if five are already dead by the time, John writes this, then it means that these people died thousands of years ago, but one is, and so one is still there at the time he's writing this. Another one is yet to come. And although I don't really have enough knowledge to tell you who these ones are, there is one more who's going to come. And then the beast is actually the eighth. And so that means that so far the eighth king hasn't come, since that is the beast, but he will be the eighth king. And the 10 kings are the 10 kings mentioned earlier who will rule with the beast. And so that is essentially what we know about this great whore. It's basically a representation of the sinfulness of the world and how it rules over the earth, and a false religion that kills Christians in order to continue their disgusting and filthy lifestyle. But yes, although obviously there is no actual physical great whore, it is a representation of Babylon, of Rome, and of, who controls the earth. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something new. Don't forget to watch the full End Time series. And next time I will just be going over a few more verses to finish off.